Well, Prime Minister Tony Abbott has made winding back our country's recent efforts to combat global warming his top priority. But is he taking our country down the right path?
Just a day after Tony Abbott was officially sworn in as the 28th Prime Minister of our fair nation, bam! He brought the hammer down on the Australian Climate Commission and sacked its boss, the internationally respected climate change scientist Tim Flannery.
The Climate Commission really just provided information to the Australian public. Climate change science, climate economics and what's happening internationally. So I think it'll be a loss for Australia as a whole, really, that we don't have that.
But the PM's not stopping there. The Climate Change Authority, tasked with managing our carbon reduction targets, and the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, a $10 billion fund for investment in renewable energy sources, are also doomed. But should we really be surprised? After all, just last week, Tony Abbott's chief business advisor called man-made warming a myth. And despite claiming to believe, one of the PM's key election policy pillars was ending climate change costs for Aussie taxpayers.
There's lots of bodies providing the government advice. You don't need to also have a climate commission that's got such a terrible record of promoting only one side of the debate.
But has the PM been a bit hasty? This Friday, the UN will put out the first part of what is arguably the most important climate change document ever released. The 6-year collaboration between hundreds of scientists from around the globe has a clear message. They are now 95% certain that human activity has caused more than half of the global warming felt since 1951, and it is ongoing. It leaves only a tiny 5% margin for uncertainty, just as the PM turns his attention to scrapping the carbon tax, one policy that has worked. But even if there is a minuscule chance that humans aren't causing climate change, in an arid country considered one of the most vulnerable to global warming, is doing nothing a risk we can afford to take?
Well, one man who believes we're risking a great deal by turning away from the efforts to halt climate change is renowned environmental activist and academic David Suzuki. Welcome to you, David. Now, there's been a move by governments There's been a move by governments around the world from trying to move away from combating climate change. Is the war to get that message out? Do you feel like it's being lost a little?
Well, I don't know what you mean by countries trying to move away from it. We've certainly had international conferences where countries are trying to come to some kind of agreement about it. We know that China is moving full speed ahead with its green economy. The United States is certainly bringing on renewable energy like mad. The problem is not that countries are deviating from that thrust, but that there is a very powerful lobby from the fossil fuel industry that are creating a lot of confusion on the part of the general public.
Our new Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, made his top priority taking away the measures that we had in place to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. What are your concerns about that?
Well, my concerns are, on what basis are we going to make decisions in a very, very unsettling time? I mean, human activity now is causing enormous changes on the planet, not just the chemistry of the atmosphere, but the chemistry of the oceans. We're denuding the land of forests. We're spreading pollutants all over the world. We're changing the properties of the planet. And how do we guide ourselves into a very uncertain future? If we don't have science, what are we going to rely on? Are we going to rely on the Bible? Are we going to rely on the Quran? Are we going to rely on advertising agencies? Are we going to rely on the fossil fuel industry to tell us where we should go? I would have thought that at this time of uncertainty, one of the most important sources of information would be science. And I thought Tim and the commission that he was running was the absolutely best thing that we have going, that is a body that is hands-off organization to try to provide, not tell you what strategy or policy should be, but trying to inform you about this, what is known as far as science goes. To say we're not interested in that is to say we're going to cut ourselves off. And let me tell you, this is exactly what the Canadian government is doing too. Just because Canada and Australia are doing this, don't think that the rest of the world is following this path. Not by any means at all. But Canada is trying to shut down any source of information about climate.
David, you mentioned Tim there being hands-off. He wasn't actually that hands-off, and he famously said that in the middle of our big drought that we would never have natural rains to fill our dams and rivers again. We had a whole bunch of state governments that rushed out and panicked and built desalination plants that now sit idle. So are you absolutely convinced you've got this right? Because it's a very expensive mistake if you haven't.
Well, who says that, I mean, how long ago did he actually say this, and how long have these plants been built?
Well, he said it 5 years ago in the middle of the drought. They now sit there vacant.
5 years ago,
unused.
is that when he said it?
Yeah.
And when were the plants built? I'd say give it a little time. It's kind of quick, you know. You've had a very prolonged drought. Now, you seem to have some relief from that. Do you think, oh, well, it's all over, we don't have to worry about it? I think it's a bit too early to start saying, oh, what an expensive boondoggle that was.
Mate, what sort of catastrophic events are going to happen before every government takes this seriously? What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. I would have thought Australia would be at the ramparts saying we've got to do something. I mean, you've had a prolonged drought, which I would have thought would worry you. You've got issues about fires, about the season getting longer and the intensity of fires getting greater, and the Barrier Reef, for heaven's sakes, is suffering immensely. When I came in 1988 and dove in the Barrier Reef the first time, it was radically different from what it is more recently when I dove. I was shocked to see the state of the Barrier Reef. Now, I would have thought, if you're paying any attention at all, that those are warnings that we must begin to do something. And if Australia's not warning the world, I don't know what it's going to take.
Well, David, thank you very much for your insights tonight. We'll have you back and talk about it some more sometime.
Thank you.